oversight hearing on the Department of Agriculture, specifically the Conservation Officers section, which falls into law enforcement and public safety, is hereby convened on Thursday, December 10th at 4 p.m. The purpose of this particular oversight, just to clarify and to share with the community, that it's to take a look at the section, the Conservation Officer section, to discuss the budgetary issue and then discuss personnel issues as it relates to the officers themselves. The outline of the agenda would be the budget allocation for fiscal year 2016, the recruitment, retention, promotion, the organizational chart, and any other outstanding concerns that may be brought about by my colleagues who have joined us this afternoon. On that note, I'd like to thank the Vice Speaker as well as the Vice Chair of the Committee, Vice Speaker Vijay Cruz, and the Vice Chair of the Committee, Senator Tom Atta. Thank you very much, Senators, for joining us this afternoon. We do have individuals who have signed up for this oversight hearing. If by any chance you would like to join the panel, we will recognize the Director initially and start off the discussion from there. But the other individuals that have requested or have signed in is Mr. Michael A. Reyes, Daniel Anderson, Richard Regadio, Matt Sablan, the Director of Agriculture, and Linda Tatro. So if anyone else would like to join the panel up front right after we present the questions and get some responses from the Director as well as his administrative assistant, financial assistant, then by all means you're welcome to join us up front. We will proceed first of all in that particular order as was outlined earlier. Mr. Director, please, if I can ask you to identify yourself, and if there's any opening comments you would like to share with us, then please proceed. Thank you.
Buenos and Vice Speaker Cruz, Senator Atta, and Committee Chair Senator Aguon. I do want to take this opportunity to thank you for giving us this opportunity on behalf of myself, my ASO, and my conservation officers, the opportunity today to actually voice in discussion our concerns and issues, which is the budget, the promotion, retention, and recruitment. I want to take this opportunity first to thank the third legislature for the passage of Bill 176, which was passed into Public Law 33-97 recently on November 10. That actually enables my 10 limited term employees to continuity of employment and into the process of getting them classified. So again, I thank you. I thank this body, the 33rd legislature. Again, we're here today in hopefully in discussion for me to, as a director, to give the opportunity for my conservation officers, which are a lot of them are way overdue in promotion, and that's one of my biggest priority for today's discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sablan. And let me just backtrack just momentarily, and just so for the information of the public, the initial notification on this particular oversight hearing was disseminated on December 2nd, and then the subsequent follow-up second notice on this particular oversight hearing was distributed on the 7th of December. And that reflected all the stakeholders, inclusive of the Governor's Office and the Lieutenant Governor's Office, as well as the other government representatives. The first question, Mr. Director, is what I had shared a little earlier in terms of the budget allocation for fiscal year 2016. We do know that the department was provided a lump sum budget, and specifically by the Chair of Appropriation and the members of the legislature, so that at least as much flexibility just within the realm of your department can be applied in terms of how those funds are expended. So the first question would be the budget allocation for fiscal year 2016 on the Conservation Officer operations.
All right. I'll refer that over to my Administrative Service Officer, Ms. Toni Santos.
Ms. Santos, please identify yourself for the record.
My name is Toni Santos. I'm the Administrative Services Officer for Department of Agriculture. Thank you. Okay, the budget that was allocated for the section conservation officer, well, because of the budget cut, we were able to only accommodate them with personnel, and with the inclusion of the 3 limited term employees.
Ms. Santos, if I can just...
the conservation recruits.
If I can just interject just very briefly, because I know you alluded to budget cut, but it was a reduction from the amount requested versus what was previously provided in the prior fiscal year. So it really, in actuality, if you cross over from fiscal year 15 to fiscal year 16, my understanding is that it was not a budgetary reduction for the Department of Agriculture. It may have reflected a lower amount from what the request was submitted. So we just need to make sure that our community understands that as it applies to the Department of Agriculture as a whole, that the budget was not reduced, but it reflected an amount lower than what was requested through the budget process initially. Okay? Just
I guess to add on to that, Senator, we might want to just call it our wish list, but as far as the warm bodies weren't affected. So on that part, it wasn't a budget cut. It's just the wish list that what we wanted for FY16 wasn't actually included. But you're right, it wasn't a budget cut, because when we say budget cut, it means eliminating our existing warm bodies or positions.
okay, thank you for that
That's true.
clarification. Please, Ms. Santos. And Mr. Vice Speaker?
Just as you're talking about the 2016 request, did your 2016 budget request the 40% for the law enforcement increase?
Negative. No, Vice Speaker.
I want that repeated again.
No.
Did you request for the law enforcement 40% in the budget that was submitted last February?
Yes, Senator, that's included.
Oh,
The 40%, because, yeah, the 40, you're talking about the conservation officers?
No, the animal control or?
No, the
Oh, I'm sorry.
conservation.
Oh, okay. I was referring
Well,
to.
it is included. It was included in the 2016 because they were already receiving that amount. So we did include it in 2016 for the 40%.
That's for the conservation officers.
And they received it, the conservation officers got their 40%.
That's right. Correct.
And they're still getting their 40%.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. My apology. I was referring to the animal
ACH.
control officers. Yeah.
Ms. Santos, any additional comments?
Uh,
Okay.
let's see.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
like I said, we did include them, the 40%, so they are now currently receiving the 40%. Now, the only one that I guess now that we're here is to get their promotion, because that was not included. We tried, well, we put it into the budget 2016 for the promotion of lieutenant and sergeant, but that didn't happen because, of course, it was not a warm body.
Okay, so what is the total amount that was allocated specifically for conservation operations?
For the operation or for the promotion now?
The operations are inclusive of personnel, so.
Okay, the personnel, we have 861,249.
So that's inclusive of personnel, and then anything that you've
Personnel.
allocated and set aside specifically for other operational costs, other than
The
personnel?
operation is only for $5,000 for their ammunition.
How
And
much?
also $5,000. And about $1,400 for their uniform.
Okay. Now going to the secondary item, because I think that this is going to eventually accommodate in terms of the conversation and come back to the budget issues. The second item that, Mr. Director, that was shared with you was on the agenda is the recruitment, retention, and promotion. I do know that Ms. Santos just shared with us that additional funding was not provided in regards to promotional opportunities, but with the impending retirement of your highest ranking conservation officer, what is the intent of the department as it utilizes that particular funding mechanism?
Well, my intent is not to lose that position budget for the retiring officer, and because everything will actually be a domino effect as we go into the next topic of promotion. So it kind of leads to that. But yes, I do not want to lose that position that's going to be vacated by the retiring. Tony, yeah.
I guess the follow-on question would be, in terms of looking at promotional opportunities, it's if you're looking at, okay, this individual, the highest ranking conservation officer, will be departing and retiring at the end of this year. Now, the funding for a recruitment of a conservation officer would be significantly less than what is presently being expended for his position. Now, so if your intent is to retain that position and fill that position at step one, then you still have funding as an opportunity to pursue promotions and whatnot for your conservation officer. So I guess that's really more or less the line of question in terms of whether in fact the intent and the anticipated action of the department is to pursue those promotions in-house.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. That is correct.
Okay, let me ask another question. Just looking at the books, Mr. Sablan, the books reflect Conservation Officer 1, Conservation Officer 2, and Conservation Officer 3 of all your personnel. Now, the additional promotional opportunities would reflect a lieutenant, a captain, and so on. Now, my question would be, is the department looking at also pursuing promotional opportunities to those steps so that at least you provide advancement and anticipated promotions down the road? Because the challenge I'm faced with right now, Mr. Director, is that in 2006, and the documents were provided to you and to my colleagues here, there was a memorandum by the Civil Service Commission, and in which there was a desk audit that was conducted. It identified it out of so many personnel within the department that certain individuals needed to be slotted to particular positions to reflect the duties and the responsibilities that they were carrying out at that time in 2006.
Right.
And then it recommended that promotional opportunities be opened up for lieutenant and captain so that the individuals who are working within the department, the conservation officers, who right then and there were highlighted that they were carrying out responsibilities commensurate with lieutenant and captain, that they would have that opportunity. Not necessarily specifically for them, because obviously if other individuals apply and they qualify above and beyond the individuals within the department, then there's not much that can be done other than bring that individual and that expertise in.
Right.
So that was the findings and the recommendations of the Civil Service Commission at that time. Now, it comes back again to, there's a number of conservation officers in the room, is whether the department will use the budgetary flexibility that will be available shortly after the conclusion of this fiscal year to strongly pursue promotional opportunities for your conservation officers.
That is correct. And as you mentioned with the audit back in 2000, I believe it was 2007, it's in place. So with that said, we use that as a mechanism for, again, for the promotional opportunities. So that is my, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Sablan. The organizational chart,
Right.
was a copy provided to the
Right.
committee?
The one that you- oh, yeah.
Please, if you can provide a copy to
Here.
my staff, and they will provide them to the
Oh,
senators.
you want?
Now, right now, you have how many conservation officers? Mr. Director?
I have 10 conservation officers.
10, and of which one is anticipated to retire by the end of the month.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Senators, Mr. Vice Speaker, any additional comments? I'd like to recognize the Oversight of Agriculture. Thank you very much, Senator Spicio, for joining us this afternoon, and Senator Frank Gloss Jr. Thank you, Senator. Like was shared a little earlier, the intent behind this oversight hearing is to hear from the director and from the department in terms of what the overall anticipated plans were for the balance of the fiscal year 16. And what we're hearing at this point in time is that there will be a Conservation Officer 3 position that is presently filled. An individual occupying that position will be retiring at the end of the month. And the intent of the director, and obviously this is going to require a lot of conversations with BBMR, the front office, is to pursue promotional opportunities for your personnel.
That's correct.
Okay. Mr. Director, Mr. Chairman, you sure? Frank, any questions?
Copies? Okay.
Yeah, I think he's making copies. You need one.
Okay, so what the organizational chart that we have before us right now is reflective of all of the positions that are filled, with the exception of the lieutenant. Is there a reason why it concludes at lieutenant, Mr. Director?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair?
Is there a reason why it concludes at lieutenant, the lieutenant position?
Yes, we felt it's lieutenant position. I know you're referring, why not a captain or, but,
I mean, Mr. Director, it's ultimately your call in terms of the promotion opportunity for your personnel, but right now I'm looking at a sergeant position as an opportunity for a conservation officer to elevate or to be promoted to, and then also a lieutenant. And I was under the impression that at least a captain would be at the very minimum position available within that structure. And right now, the org chart that I'm seeing is not reflective of that. So I just wanted to share my perspective with you, because I think a captain would be very, very appropriate.
okay, I'll consider that, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Senators, any questions or comments with regards to the issues before us, the conservation officers? Before I dismiss you, Mr. Director, can I ask a sideline question with the concurrence of the Oversight Chair? You do
Let's hear
have...
the question first. Go ahead, yeah.
No, with the
Very
concurrence,
easy.
because it's out of my realm of conservation officer. I think that first and foremost, your agency has been working on the compensation of the farmers for crop damage during one of our previous storms. And I want to thank you and your agency for working that process, and I want to thank BBMR and the governor for consenting to that process proceeding with the funds that you identified. Now, can you just explain the process so that our farmers, the timeline, so that our farmers would understand? And trust me, there are a number of farmers watching right now.
Okay.
Understand
And-
what
and-
timeline they're going to be working
And rightfully so. Okay, well, it all started, and actually, and again, I'm going to refer back because you are the one that introduced that, the 250,000, and with the 15% reserve, it came down to 212,500. So we did send out a press release. Now, this is all related to Typhoon Dolphin crop damages, and it's going to apply only to registered commercial farmers. That has to be understood. When we put out the press release, we give them 30 working days. This is working days now, and the time limit, the date will expire December 23rd. December 23rd. On that last day, our ADSR, Agriculture Development Services, Mr. John Bora, will facilitate all documents, receipts that proves damages, crop damages. And then from there on, it's going to be turnover to Department of Administration for issuing of checks.
Yeah.
So again, the milestone is the 23rd of December is the deadline. Why we gave it for 30 working days, because again, due to the fact maybe farmers are off island or maybe have a hard time getting their receipts, documents, we're giving that opportunity. But again, because of the amount, Mr. Chair, we dedicated that to Typhoon Dolphin.
So the internal review would take about 2-3 weeks going into the latter part of January?
Well, as we speak, in fact, I saw the chart in the office with the ADS section. They did already process 50 commercial farmers with receipts, and I believe we have 82 total that actually came in to file claim.
So far.
So we made an improvement from the previous typhoons on how we do the process. And we do have, of course, the luxury of the Department of Labor employees that we actually engage fully with assisting with documents. But yes, I'm looking at maybe a week of processing after the deadline.
And then it'll be transmitted accordingly for
Right.
further
with DOE.
processing at
And maybe,
DOE.
I don't know, Tony, if you want to
Direct payment.
chime in on other processes with DOE?
No, well, we'll do the direct payment. Once they give us all the information, like dollar amount, we'll do a direct payment, and then, of course, DOA will make the payments. And then we'll call the last time that we've done this, the farmers had to go down to DOA to get their checks.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that our farmers and some of our listeners understand the process, so that, between now and the 23rd, the chairman is not going to be bombarded by questions in regards to what the status is, because that's the definitive timeline in terms of closing the receipts and documents from our farmers. And then internally, the department personnel would be calculating that, of which you've already completed the calculations for 50 out of the 82 that have submitted. And then the $212,000 will be prorated accordingly,
Right.
based on the number of eligible farmers.
Right.
And
yeah.
hopefully by sometime in January, with the assistance of DOA and the governor's office.
That is our
payment will
target
be
date. We do have the factor of, because we want to make sure every farmer gets a share. So there is a percentage factor. If you have 10 acres versus 2 acres, the 2 acres get some amount out of it. So it's all a percentage factor, this calculation.
met. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Mr. Director. Mr. Vice Chair?
Yeah, before we leave the organizational chart, so a couple of things you said earlier. First of all, the funding for the lieutenant position is there in the budget?
Well, no, well, right now, based on previous information from Senator Aguon, well, with the retirement of Conservation Officer 3, that is anticipated like December 25th. So with the lapse on that, we can use that for the promotions, and that should be enough, adequate.
For the promotions, as a result, that will come as a result of the vacating of the Conservation 3
Correct.
position.
Correct. Senator.
So from that, then, there's going to be one promotion that will be available, right?
Well, we anticipate that with the lapse, because all these are our current employees, so they're not going to be requiring a lot of funds for their promotion. So whatever amount we have, I'm pretty much sure that we can cover the promotions for pretty much all of this 25 years employees.
So when you
25
say
years of
promotion,
employment.
is it just a step promotion?
Well, it's a two-step promotion. So I'm looking at an average of at least $4,000 or $5,000 each.
Okay. All right. So the lapses is going to be enough to basically spread it out amongst the
Yes,
existing
yeah.
employees. But then we were going back. Then there was some mention earlier about in-house promotions, and I guess in reference to the lieutenant position. Did I miss something?
That could not be an in-house promotion because it's a supervisor position.
Oh.
It has to be announced.
All right, but mention was made about an in-house promotion. Then maybe I missed something.
Well,
Yeah.
In-house promotion in reference to what?
Well, it's going to go through, I guess, the merit
Well-
system, announce, and then.
Well, on this kind of positions like sergeant and lieutenant, it has to be announced open.
Okay.
It has to be an open announcement because of the position it is that it calls for. It's not an entry level.
Okay.
So it has to be open announcement.
Okay. And so candidates from outside the department can apply for it,
Definitely.
as well as those from within
Exactly.
also.
Yes,
Okay.
Senator.
All right. Now, just one final question, and that is, given the anticipation of the one Conservation Officer 3 position becoming vacant by the end of the month, and then your plans to basically provide step increases for the existing conservation officers, has any of this been discussed with BBMR and DOA? Because, you can have all these great plans, and if BBMR, won't even entertain it, it goes nowhere. So has there been any kind of, at least, discussion with them, with the director?
No.
And I guess I'm directing that.
Okay. Well, initially, when we did the FY16 proposal, we did give them a snapshot of our intent of the organizational chart. So, but we did mention our intent when we submitted the FY16 proposal.
So I guess my recommendation is that if we truly are planning on moving on that plan, that you really do a bit more than just mentioning it to them. I mean, start, becoming a pest with them, to let them know that this is what you want, this is what you need to do, and that you really need their support.
Right. I know we did give them the staffing pattern based on our FY16 proposal, so they did hear it and have visual on it. But yes, I will do a continuity of conversation with them.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Senator Ada.
Yeah, thank you,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair. I just want to add, since we're talking about lapses, there's also the other side of lapses, and that's potential shortfalls. I want to know if you have an update on where you're at in terms of funding the requirements made in a recent law that requires the continuation of the conservation officers and the forestry aides to be absorbed by the department's budget.
Yes, we did absorb that, them, Senator, all 10 of them. And in fact, we did submit a personnel action for them to go through the merits process. So once that's cleared by BBMR, it's been sent about 2 weeks already, so it's probably down at DOA already. So once we go through that, it would be an open announcement, and the same number of people would have to apply for it. Then we go to the actual process of interviews and selection, and
Are
it
you
would be a
doing that
conversion.
with those incumbent conservation officers and the?
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
Because I thought the law was different. I thought the law was going to move them from.
Yeah.
Well, they are warm bodies, so they are, we'll just go through the system, but will be considered, highly considered. Yes, earlier I did mention about the passage of Bill 176, and I guess, now that you're present, I thank you and I appreciate the...
Was that advice that you were given from BBMR? Because that's a departure of what we talked about in previous hearings, as well as the sponsor's intent that through this legislation they would be able to go from one classification to another classification just by that legislation without that process that you described.
Well, we made sure that it's departmental, so the only ones that would be
Yeah,
accepted on
this is the one.
application would have to be these employees that the bill was actually made out for, or the public law.
But they're going to still have to be interviewed. They're still going to have to be.
That's true. That's
But
true.
is that necessary given the passage of 3397, Public Law 3397?
Well, it's not going to be a long process, because all we have to do is go through the process of them being interviewed, and we just submit in their names, and DOA would just do the conversion. Instead of having to go through a blood test, or drug test rather, they don't have to go through that route.
But it all says that all these positions shall be admitted into the classified service of the government of Guam and shall have their admission as members in the classified service conducted without a disruption in service.
That's
Well,
correct.
there's no disruption in
There's no
service.
disruption.
But you're putting them through the interview process, and I mean, is that necessary given the passage of this new law?
Well, I'll have to check with DOE if they have to go through that, and they just needed to do a conversion.
I think the most prudent thing to do is just submit a amended GG1 to BBMR, and then that initiates the carryover from one classification to the other. I mean, you're very busy, obviously, and you have more pressing things to take care of. And if you're going to be engaging in a process that's not necessary or no longer provided for by this particular public law, then you may be not only wasting your time, but you may be putting these individuals to more anxiety and uncertainty. Right?
Well, I will follow through with DOA, because I'm sure it's already clear that BBMR
So my original,
and they didn't question it.
Okay, so I mean, this is very helpful too. So I'm trying to have you avoid
Understand.
something that's not necessary. But it goes back to my original question, just so you can be clear for the record that those positions still need some funding prior to the termination or the end of this current fiscal year, right?
Well, like I said, they're still working. They're still getting paid, and we did do the GG1 just so they can get paid for that October 1st. I mean,
Did
before
they ever miss a pay period?
They did miss a pay period because of the establishment of the account. But once that happened, DOA was very instrumental in getting everything, what do you call this, process, so they don't miss another pay period.
I know, because you guys promised at another previous hearing that they will not have a disruption in their paycheck, and they went for some time without a paycheck because of this, whatever the reason is.
We did advise them, though, that they would not miss a payday. I mean, a pay. But however, they might miss at least a month of pay because of the processing of the documents. Because on the September 30th, they terminated all that transaction or personal actions because it expires September 30th. So when that personal action expires September 30th, we had to wait until we established the new account, which is effective October 1st. So they did miss, well, they did miss one paycheck, but then we had that covered right away when the documents were cleared by BBMR and DOA.
So what is your projected shortfall for the carryover of these individuals?
I haven't.
The timing was like 387,000, but you were going to use the balance of the SETI Bay funding, right?
That's correct.
So you're
as a backup,
still
yes.
about 100,000 maybe?
But we were able to accommodate them, though. We were able to cover because we kind of cut back on our operations so we can cover the personnel.
So but you're still going to need a supplement, right?
For the warm bodies, we covered them.
Okay.
All the warm bodies in the department
that's
are
good
covered.
news. That's to the end of the fiscal year.
Correct. So what we're looking at are the vacancies that was not funded.
Okay. So rest easy. All right.
Yes.
Is the message to these individuals who are affected in this with this particular area?
They're covered through September 30th.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Director.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the line of questions. Any other questions for these two individuals? If not, Mr. Sablan and Ms. Santos, if I can ask you to just make yourself available in the back. We're
All right.
going to hear testimony from some of the others.
Okay. Thank you,
please.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Of the individuals that I had named a little earlier, Michael Reyes, Daniel Anderson, Richard Regadio, Linda Petrin, or Mark Aguon, if any of you would like to come up and provide testimony this afternoon, you're more than welcome. Please join us up front. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this oversight hearing. And if we can start to your furthest left, gentlemen, if you don't mind. Ms. Tetcher, please identify
thank you
yourself
very
for the
much.
record.
I'm Linda Tatro. I taught marine biology at George Washington High School for 25 years. I am here to talk enthusiastically about the recruitment and retention of conservation officers. I very much love Guam. I love the environment. And I love our conservation officers because they're out there to protect it for us now and for the future. When I taught marine biology, I focused heavily on Guam, and within that, I focused on the environmental issues. And that included not only the ocean, but also the land, because just about everything we do on the land has an effect on the ocean. I have been here before speaking about marine preserves, speaking about protecting our sharks. I'm very active right now in the protest to stop the Fujita culvert. So that's just some background so you know that I do really care about the environment. I did some research on Guam's conservation officers, and in the early 1900s there were 18 conservation officers. By 2007 this had dropped to 10. There have been only 3 replacements, and that just happened this month. They were limited term, those 3 were limited term for almost 2 years, and they've just finally this month become full-time, or I don't know what you call it after, real term as opposed to limited term. The director stated that there were 10 conservation officers today. I went to the Department of Agriculture earlier this week, and they listed the names of the conservation officers, and there were 8. 2 of those are military, and they're either deployed or involved in on-island duties. That makes 6. 1 is on furlough for personal reasons. That makes 5. 1 is retiring this month. That makes 4. 1 is retiring next year. That makes 3. Conservation is not a 9-to-5 job. It's all day, every day. These officers work the night shift, they work the swing shift, they work the day shift. They don't have a regular schedule, and it's been shown by studies that working these schedules that aren't a regular schedule, when you alternate from night to day and back and forth, that it's detrimental to both physical and mental health. When we think of conservation officers, we think of game wardens. They're out there catching illegal hunters and illegal fishermen. But the conservation officers on Guam, their duties go far beyond that. And one of their major goals is education. I'm not sure that's even written in their job description, but they work very hard to educate the public so that we do what's right, because a lot of times we just don't know better. Over time, their duties have expanded due to legislative mandates to include wildland fire investigation, littering, farm damage control safety, boating safety, enforcement of federal fish and game laws, including NOAA regulations and U.S. fish and wildlife laws. The conservation officers are also tasked with assisting other law enforcement agencies, including civil defense and homeland security. It seems to me that laws are enacted, and then the question is asked, who is going to enforce these laws? Let's let the conservation officers do it. With all these law enforcement duties, they never stop working to educate the public, who often do things that harm the environment just because they don't know better. These officers really care about Guam. They work to defend our natural resources and protect our endangered species. They want to ensure that these resources will, these resources will always be here for all of us to enjoy. Please help to increase recruitment and retention of our conservation officers. You must help them so they can continue to help us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tetro, for your comments and your
that
your
had
advocacy.
nothing to do with the budget.
I understand, and thank you for your advocacy of our conservation officers. Certainly, you highlighted some of the importance of their responsibilities out there in the community, and it's always good to ensure that our people are well informed of the efforts coming from the conservation officers. So thank you for your comments this afternoon. Mike?
Good afternoon, Senators. I am a conservation officer, Mike Reyes. I am the section supervisor, and I will be the one retiring this month. 2 points I would like to bring forward. One is the operational budget itself. Our ASO had mentioned that the only thing we have is $5,000 for ammunition. And there's a lot more things that we do need that we are not being funded for. I have a fleet of vehicles that are in dire straits when it comes to repairs. The fleet is since 2004, and they're falling apart. And the officers are at that point already where they're reluctant to get in these vehicles and do their patrols, and I really don't blame them. We've been without a budget for repairs or even the procurement of brand new vehicles for the last 10 years. And looking at the budget this year itself, there is nothing. We don't have money for computers in the office. I mean, the systems that we have are antiquated and don't work. A lot of the officers are resorting to bringing their personal laptops in to get the work done. So this is kind of like, ludicrous. And I don't see the fairness in that. We don't have money for the printer to fix it. We don't have money for the ink. We don't have money to fix the jet skis. I mean, we have a jet ski that's perfectly running. We have all the repair parts, but we can't put the parts in because we just don't have the funding. We have a patrol vessel that is in dire need of repairs. We can't get out in the water. We can't do our job. We have ATVs that are in need of repairs. The officers are in desperate need of body armor. Body armor. This is something that's going to, protect them and give them comfort when they do their jobs. What we have is something that was back since 19 88, as far back as I can recall. And some of the officers have even resorted to buying their own personal armor, which is something they shouldn't do in the first place. Another office supply that's necessary for writing reports and processing the arrestees itself. So $5,000 this year, really. I mean, we're looking at that like, what am I going to do with $5,000? I'm going to get ammunition. Everything else falls at the wayside. Another issue here, the director and the ASO were here talking about using the money from the impending retirement. But little do they know, or I'm pretty sure the ASO knows, that when I retire, I have all these lump sums that are coming. So I'm projecting somewhere between $25,000 and $30,000 right off the bat. Take it off from the 2016 budget itself for that my position itself. So whatever's remaining is probably not going to be enough to promote people into the positions that they want to be promoted into. So that is something that you really need to take a look at. The stipends, uniform stipends themselves, I have a big issue with this, is because for the past 3 years we've been given $150 for uniform, to purchase uniforms itself and to maintain these uniforms. $150. This set here that Officer Aguon is wearing costs about nearly $200. So the officers are just going to buy a trouser, a shirt, and I guess probably socks and t-shirt, and that's it. And the minimum wear, I think, is, I believe, Mark, if I'm correct, is 3?
Yes.
So this year itself, we're projected for just $150. Officers are going to have to kick out from their pockets to buy the remaining. So, I'm asking that you take a look at the operation budget itself and help us out in this, because when I spoke to the director itself, basically told him that you make the priorities. And we are a law enforcement entity. We're not 8 to 5. We don't sit behind the desk and we're out there. And there's always a potential for somebody to get hurt if we don't provide the officers what they need to do their jobs. And I guess I'll close with that, and I think Mark will talk about the promotions themselves.
Officer Reyes, first of all, with regards to your comment, I thank you for presenting your perspective in regards to the budget that's allocated or the operational funds, because there's 2 ways where, in fact, this whole issue can be addressed in terms of increasing either the stipend or increasing the operational budget for the conservation officer operations. And that is for Mr. Sablan to go to BBMR and the governor's office and continue to advocate through that route. The other perspective, and this is one of the reasons why I consider oversight hearings helpful to the process, is that you have senators here listening to some of these comments and these concerns, so that when we revisit the budget for subsequent fiscal years, that the additional funding, should funds be available, can be incorporated into the budget. So I really appreciate you sharing your perspective, and to close, thank you for your service to the people of Guam and really to the Department of Agriculture.
Absolutely welcome.
Officer Aguon.
Good afternoon, Senators, Vice Speaker, Committee Chair. Senators, I really appreciate you giving us the chance to speak today. I had a hard time trying to figure out where to start, but I guess I'll start where I left off in our last public hearing. Now, we have officers in our unit that have been on duty for 24 plus years. And with these guys have never been promoted. And I'm not going to say for lack of opportunity, because believe it or not, we had 2 opportunities for 10 of us for that period of time. Every time somebody either resigned or retired, the money went away for whatever reasons. We don't care right now. But you cannot hold these guys to 2 positions to fight for with 10 guys for 20 plus years. We have other employees in the government of Guam that have been on duty for 5 years and have moved maybe twice already. These guys have been on duty for 24 plus years and have not moved once. So where is the fairness in that? That's number one. Sitting next to me is Officer Regadio, and he is one of them. He holds a master's degree. We have gone through the education and got higher education under our belts. Some of us even got specialized training. But to what? We've always been ignored. Look behind me, you will see maybe 10 people if you're lucky. And that's mostly employees from our section. And that's one reason why we're not being paid attention to, is because we're so small. We all know that. But we need help. All of you up there know that the resources of Guam is important. I know it. In your hearts, you know that. When the ships didn't come after the earthquakes and fires down at the port, what were we going to eat? If we don't do our jobs, you will have nothing. Chaos. So, I'm asking that there is a true observation of our status amongst your colleagues, and take a hard look and be the one thing that you did this year that you could stand proud with us and say, we corrected this situation. The lieutenant position, the reason why, Senator, that stopped there, that it didn't go up to captain, because at the time our numbers did not justify a captain, because we were too small of a unit. We lost too many people. That's why it stopped at lieutenant. So lieutenant down. The lieutenant position, the sergeant position are not funded. With Lieutenant Reyes, I still call him my lieutenant, but he's held this position for over 10 years, and he's still a CO3. So when other agencies looking at him, from the side, from the back, they say, oh, he's not really a lieutenant? Is that what I need to hear? Yet he's doing the job of a captain. You talk about the desk audit. I was a CO1, I believe, at the time the desk audit was done. I'm rated as a lieutenant. Yet I'm a CO2 right now. In the old way, a CO2 was considered under administrative duties from the department level as a sergeant, a supervisor. So I'm out there supervising these guys as their field operations sergeant, as a CO2 for 10 years already. So you have to take an honest look at this situation. Is poor. We've been treated badly, years and years and years of no budget operation. We have to beg and borrow, pay out of our own pocket. They always get mad. Don't fix that, Sarge, because if you fix it, they'll never fund us. They never fund us anyway. We pay a lot of money that we should be giving to our families to take care of their needs, not the government of Guam. And that's where we're at for years. This is nothing new. And we've been trying to come to this body and ask our just due. Now I'm the number 2 man. I'm supposed to take over when Lieutenant Reyes leaves. I'm a CO2 still. Where does that put me? You're going to detail me with a letter? I think I deserve more respect than that, and so do my colleagues. I'm just saying, let's be fair. Yes, we are small, but we're strong and we're diligent in doing our job. We got the public yelling at us. You guys don't do your job. They don't know we just got off a 16-hour shift. They don't know we pulled night duty because another guy complained they're hitting his cows. They're stealing his cows. What more can we do? How much more can you wring out of us? I need more bodies. We are leaving. The expertise that we have to train new people to take over is disappearing. We're losing Lieutenant Reyes in a few days. No more teaching from him. It's up to Richard, me, and Frankie now, who's military deployed. Come January, when Christopher Castro, Frankie Canata get deployed, Richard Regato has to be deployed to help Christopher get deployed. That leaves me and those 3 LTAs you guys approved last couple of months ago to defend the island's resources come January for a year. For a year. What more can you ask of me, gentlemen? I'm asking you, please. Give us our just due. Give us the manpower. Make something real happen. Because we're hurting. We're hurting bad, and it's your island too. You know, we have an influx of immigrants coming to Guam. They don't know our laws. They don't know our regulations. We have to deal with that. I'm finding myself now learning how to speak different languages just to explain what can be taken and what cannot be taken. The government doesn't pay for that training. I just did it on my own. We're finding ourselves doing that daily, trying to figure out a way to do our job better, yet we don't see anything in return from our government, who we work for. We are trained and we are responsible public servants. We teach that in our unit. This doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the people of Guam. So why are we treated so poorly? Our unit needs help. Our unit needs help. I just had Officer Castro ask his friend, please come into our department, help keep our truck running, because we have no money to repair it. Why shouldn't be doing that? Our deputy was getting mad at my boss. Hey, don't you know your cars are expired? Get those things upgraded. And we're like, with what? Last time he paid is out of his own pocket to get his vehicle inspected. We got the fishermen laughing at us. Hey, look at that, look at that. They're expired. So embarrassing. We know we need to do these things, but we get zero. Zero every time. Lieutenant Reyes just explained it to you. For years, our budget's been zero. Now you want to give me more bullets for what? I've been carrying these bullets for 24 years. What am I going to do with it? You're not giving me help. I'm afraid that I will leave this job and I'm going to have to explain to somebody why he's not coming home, because we were overrun 10 to 4, 6 to 2. It happens, guys. We're out there alone. So we need help. I don't know what more can we tell you. Just put it together and say, look, this is wrong. For years, 20 plus years, this is wrong. We need more respect for this unit. Now, I want to close with that and have Officer Regadio speak for you.
Thank you, Officer Regadio.
Let me take a drink here. All right, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Senators. Officer Regadio. Again, a little bit of my background, yes. I did get my bachelor's in public administration to the Pedro Doc Sanchez program. And went ahead 2 years later and did get my master's again to the Pedro Doc Sanchez program in public administration. I'm also a captain in the Army Reserves, Guam, right? And I was with the 368 MP Company, and I'm currently with the 3303rd Mobility Support Battalion, right? As the logistics officer, S4. I'm not here to chastise any individual or political entity in my approach here. I am here to provide as much as possible an objective compilation snapshot of the frustrations we have gone through throughout the years in getting recognition, promotion, opportunity for the law enforcement section, Department of Agriculture. But I'm going to go at it a different approach. I'm going to go about it at the department level, to our directors, deputy directors, and ASOs and leaders, because that is also part of the problem. Okay, we say here you already were submitted, all right, the desk audit, all right, and I'm just going to refer to section D here. It says provided funds are available, certified and approved by the director, Bureau of Budget and Management Research, please submit promotion reclassification GG1s for Mr. Aguon, deceased, Officer Canata, Officer Regadio, and Officer Villagomez, deceased. The effective date of reallocation shall not be earlier than the date of this memorandum. I hear our management throughout the years always talk about funding availability. All right. However, they've had so many opportunities, right, at this section here at least, right, to move us to the CO2. They've had 60,000 allocated at one time, appropriated, given to them. All right, there was so much, but it's so long ago, right, that I've lost track. Just recently, we had Conservation Officer 2, Sergeant Watson, retire. That left the CO2 position open. Okay. Conservation Officer 2, Sergeant Jimmy Camacho, retire the last 2 years. That left a CO2 position open. Right there If they had true intent as managers, as leaders, all right, for this section at the department level, like you said, sir, right, they would have fought at BBMR to get us moved using this. Using this. This was their leverage. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen. And what are we to say? Again, that's at the director's level. There was a comment that was made that the reason why they pulled some of the funding was that the conservation officers were constantly bickering. That's true. Because we were always wondering where, like Officer Sarnagan was saying, where's the fairness? Well, what's happening with us? We are trusting our leaders. At our level, that's what we are supposed to do. Voice our concerns and wait for management and leadership, okay, to be proactive and initiate. Again, Senator Ada just mentioned, they need to get to BBMR now. All right? I have here, I sat down with the Director Sablan, all right, when the LTAs, the funding and all that for the LTAs to get them permanized. And at the same time, they brought up the issue that they was going to open up a lieutenant sergeant position. This is in the summer, July, August timeframe. I asked him, when I sat with my GFT, I asked him, okay, that's nice. We do need the bodies. But what about us? What about us, the seniors? What's happening with us? I got a nice letter after that. This is in response to our meeting of August 21st, 2015, reference Conservation One Richard Rogadio's concern for promotion. Da-da-da, okay. At that time, the department was not able to proceed with this request due to budgetary constraints. Okay. However, we will try every effort to work with the administration to assist us in this matter. Again, funding. But if we really backtrack and we really look, and we look at the history, there was opportunity, at least to get some of us to the 2s and 3s, just by that desk audit and what they had available at the time. Now they're going to sit again and say, oh, we got to wait, we got to push, and we got to see what we can do. And it's frustrating. About 6 months ago, the OIC and Director Sablan came from the Lieutenant Governor's office. Again, I'm not chastising the administration. I'm just presenting facts that was presented to us at section meetings. They said that they wanted to move us, transfer us to Guam Police Department. And we said, no. I raised my hand. They asked. It was all or nothing. And I said, wait a minute. I do not want to go. I really respect and love my job as a conservation officer. I feel we are a specialty type law enforcement group, and we seriously do need to protect the natural resource of this island. You need to go out there and look at Tumon, right? You really do, right? On a day-to-day basis. The litter. Again, nothing against any race. The homeless immigrants that we have to deal with, all right, that are drunk, disorderly, that we meet up there 2 in the morning, 1 in the morning, and have to take care of that situation. Okay. I'm pretty sure the Lieutenant Governor had good intentions, right? But I do not understand, because they said that if we move over there, it will afford us the promotion opportunity and then get us the funding. I'm at a loss with that comment. Because if that was the intent, why couldn't they just fix and direct it to law enforcement section conservation officers? So that died. Yeah, I'm not chastising the Lieutenant Governor, the administration. I only got what I got from the OIC and director. So maybe we never met with him personally. So we don't know what the true full picture of what his intent was. And again, I may be opening up some old wounds, but I feel I have to, because I've got young gentlemen behind me, new conservationists, as they say, new leaders, right? Right? The high schoolers, the college. It's the same with them. I don't want them to go through what I did, what we went through. We were very diligent in our job, and that we're already saying that so much, but we did. A while ago, there was a captain lieutenant announcement, GG1s, that went down to the Department of Administration. This was my first tour, or second tour, before I was heading out to deployment again. The former director, Taitigu at the time, and former deputy director, Manny Cruz at the time, just happened to go to DOA, and they saw it. What's disturbing was that they said, how did it get down to the Department of Administration? How did it get through the director and deputy director and end up at DOA? Okay? Because what was settled in the law enforcement section at the time, right, that we were going to move, this was through Conservation Officer 2 Sergeant Jimmy Camacho, okay? There was an agreement in this section that we move the CO1s first per the audit. Then later on, we come to find out something happened, and it caused bickering again. So again, it's alluding to there's something wrong, really wrong, right? When we're trying to trust our managers, right? We're trying to trust the administrators, our leaders, and we're biding our time. And this is what we're seeing. And then they're asking us to move forward and keep putting our best foot forward, and we have. And like Sergeant Aguon said, now it's 24 years, and here we are. Right? I really do like our job. I really do know that now it is very critical for our natural resource, because it is being stressed right now. We all know, because of again, they deserve to come here and make a better life for themselves, for the Compact Free Association, all that. I mean, it's Chamorros, it's Comenians, right? But if we don't pay attention, if you don't come walk with us up to Babulao, come walk with us to Mujung Manglut, the burning, the constant burning, come look at the stagnant rivers, really take a look at all the litter, all the tires being thrown out there, all right? Because when we go out, right, that's what we see as conservation officers. So, in closing, there's one other issue that I would like to address. I mentioned Conservation Officer 2, Roger L. Watson, Sergeant Watson. I mentioned Conservation Officer 2, Jimmy Camacho. And I'm also going to mention Carol Ada, Commodities 3 Lieutenant for PIF. I had the opportunity to work with Sergeant Watson and Sergeant Camacho for over 20 years before they retired. And also with Carol Ada when I was detail assigned when I was going through my grievance process up at PIF. Again, this is at the department level, and it stuns me. They did retire, right? Bittersweet. They probably, if they're watching this, like, Rich, why are you talking about? We don't care. But me, I'm going to put it out there. It's kind of shameful that these three individuals from the Department of Agriculture retired like they did. Not in a good way. They didn't go out the door without the fanfare, without the thank you for over 30 years of government service. Not one. So I'm asking the senator panel, they may not want it, but at least do something and look into it, right? And give them their due. You know, at least bring them back and say thank you. It wasn't right how they went out the door. And in my closing remarks, it's not, as a conservation officer, we're law enforcement, we're peace officers for the territory of Guam. We do more than the natural resource. We do more than conservation work. And Sergeant Aguon alluded to, we've been with SWAT. We've helped with the Blue Falcon, with the marshals. We've helped when you got escapees from DEPCOR. We've helped doing island emergencies, civil defense. We've done everything. We've done everything. We're not just conservation officers. In the 90s, we call it the Ice Age in our time. We've dealt with the crystal meth problem. We've dealt with guys pointing weapons at us. We've dealt with people with stolen weapons. We've dealt with people with obliterated firearms. Individuals that you do not want out on the streets, let alone the jungle. And they mean business. We'd had to mean business too. But then, how much more do you want from us when we go out there every day, every night, and give it our all? And we protect not only the natural resource, but the community of this island. And at every level, we're not getting the support.
Thank you very much, Officer Regadio, for your presentation. And you're presenting it rightfully to members of this body. And as we anticipate the next fiscal year's budget, certainly the chair of appropriation is here. And I have to admit that in this fiscal year budget alone, in fiscal year 16, the chair, despite the challenge in identifying the revenues coming in for this fiscal year, was able to increase from its previous fiscal year level, Department of Corrections, Guam Police Department, as well as the Guam Fire Department. So with that in line and listening to other members of the law enforcement community, I'm hopeful that coming into the next budget cycle discussion, that certainly this component of law enforcement will be given some additional resources so that at least you can carry out your jobs respectively. There's some things that you mentioned in regards to promotion, and we've heard this. This is the second hearing that we're hearing about promotions. The director made a commitment that he was going to work with the front office to try to effectuate this, and fortunately or unfortunately, Officer Reyes is going to come down to them using the resources as you exit the department. But what I wanted to hear today was that commitment in terms of being able to work with the front office so that in fact some of those resources can be used for promotions. You're absolutely right. We have a gentleman here that has been called for the last 10 years plus, Lieutenant Reyes, and in actuality, the document, the GG1, reflects CO3. And that's an injustice as he departs this particular department. We have another officer that may retire next year, referred to as a sergeant. He's going to be assuming the responsibilities of either the lieutenant or the captain as Lieutenant Reyes, and I'll refer to him as Lieutenant Reyes, departs the department at the end of this month. So these are things that we're trying to work, or we are working with the director, so that in public forums like this, you ask for the resources, the appropriate individuals are here, the oversight chair for Department of Agriculture, the oversight chair for public safety, the oversight chair for appropriations, as well as Senator Frank Bloss Jr. and the vice chair, Senator Tom Ada, and other members of the legislature who are perhaps tuning in today and listening to your concerns. Now, it's our responsibility as we venture into the next fiscal year budget to look closely at the resources that are provided specifically to your department and specifically, even more specifically, to your operations, the conservation officers' operations. Because if you're going to come here over the course of the next 2 years and continue to request additional resources, it's our job. Our job to be able to respond to that and work with the director and work with the governor's office and work with BBMR so that in fact we can get the promotions effectuated and that we can get additional resources down the road. So I'll leave with that particular comment and open the floor for senators. Mr. Vice Speaker, Mr. Oversight Chair, Senator Box. Any final comments from anyone in the panel? If not, Mr. Director, I think I owe you a closing opportunity as a result of the comments that have been presented here. As a result of the comments that were shared by some of the officers, and let me just say this: thank you very much for allowing your officers to be open and to share their concerns with
Right.
members of this body. But,
Yeah.
Mr. Director.
Well, yes, Mr. Chair. Upon listening to what their concerns are, issues, and all that, yes, I will not ponder on what's on the past before my time. That's not an excuse, or dwell on that. My intent, based on their legitimate, their reality, what they put out. 24 years. That's injustice. Myself as a director, to actually have them go out daily is already a violation of their safety. Like they mentioned, they might encounter an arrestee in the process, 2 versus 10, with guns, arrows. That's a violation of their safety. In the military, you do not allow small force to go out on a mission. Yes, their issues are concerned. As the new director, my agenda is promote, equip, and train. That PET. I use that agenda. It's gonna take a while. There's gonna be challenges, of course. It's always down to budget. But yes, I do wanna forget the past and to just take matters on what's on hand now and move forward. So yes, again, their issues they're real, they're legitimate, and I thank you again for this opportunity. This is one way in form of discussion that we actually can share our challenges to the 33rd legislature. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sablan, and thank you again for appearing before the committee and sharing with us certainly that you're going to place a priority in working with the administration and at the front office and in terms of addressing some of the concerns of your personnel. Just to close, if we take a look at some of the decisions of this body, we're looking at the passage of Bill number 176, which would allow for the classification of some of your personnel within the conservation operations section. And then obviously other components that if you need legislative support, please bring it to our attention. We'll see what we can do to help facilitate that. If it's budgetary in nature, it would go through the chair of appropriations, but also we do need a funding source identified if in fact that request is going to be presented to the legislature. But we certainly want to reach out and ensure that we work on assisting our conservation officers because they do provide a critical service to our community, and I thank you for recognizing that.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Director.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senators.